Welcome to 110 Talk, where we aim to elevate the discussion and nothing is off the table. It is July 4th weekend, and we've made it through to the second half of the year in the second quarter of the century, and it feels like a new time. America is almost 250 years old, which at first thought seems like a lot of time, but you look at it in the context of humanity and it's really not that old at all. It's still a baby. America is still a baby, and we have triumphs and we have low points, just like any human life. But I think all of us patriotic Americans believe that we can still be the example for the world and we can still show leadership. And during some of my challenging, trying times of the last few years, I got really deep into self-exploration, whether it had to do with personality, tarot cards, reading scripture, or even studying numerology. And in honor of America's birthday, I thought I would share a little bit about numerology, both as it relates to you and me, and also as it relates to America. So basically, the numerology basics for life path number, which we all have, is just adding up the digits of your birthday. So it's the digits of the month plus the digits of the day plus the digits of the year to get to that life path number. And mine, when I do it, you can find tools that will do this for you online if you just Google it, or you can add it up yourself. But mine is a life path number 9. And so it has a humanitarian focus, compassion, philanthropical nature, drawn to global issues. It seems to fit me. America, July 4th, 1976, has a life path number of 5. So it's characterized as free-spirited, adventurous, adaptable, and relentless, craving freedom and excitement. I feel like it fits this country very well. And I would be curious, during your trying times, what kind of self-reflection, internal growth have you been tackling? And if you're comfortable sharing, I'd love to know your life path number and why it does or does not fit you. In the spirit of America and Independence Day, I think that all of us have a definition of freedom that is very personal to us. I don't think that it means the same thing exactly to any one person, and that definition can change over time and as circumstances allow. For me, I used to think of freedom as work from home. I don't have to go anywhere that somebody tells me to go, and maybe freedom from worrying about bills, making sure that that bill is paid off. But over time, my definition of freedom has definitely evolved. And I think for me these days, it's about freedom from labels. I talked about this in my Smashed Up song from the Love Different singles. And it's about not being confined to one specific label or one specific group, because I really believe that we are all part of the human family, God's family, and sometimes labels exist for a good reason, to protect classes of citizen, to identify roots. But oftentimes, they're used to divide us, bring up those hot button political issues that have nothing to do with forward moving progress and everything to do with dividing us and distracting us from what's important. So I really don't like to be confined to labels, even when I am releasing my music, right? They want you to check the genre box, the subgenre box, the secondary genre box. And I'm just like, what am I going to select today? Because sometimes it might feel like pop or it might feel like hip hop. Other times I'll pick a different category. I try to do it based on the song, not just on me as an artist. I think that genres in music are definitely limiting in a way, because what if you do have your country roots or your hip hop roots and you want to break into the other quote unquote genre? It's, I think, meant to help on the good side people find music that can empower them and inspire them and vibe with the type of feeling that they have. But on the other side, it again puts people into boxes. I don't know if y'all have ever done a quiz. I think it's typically a BuzzFeed quiz. But I like that aspect. If it's like you find your favorite artist and they'll say, "Oh, what song are you of such and such favorite artist?" And I thought that was really cool. And when I was working with my business partner on developing the website, she was like, "We should do a quiz for you for your Love Different album." And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't like the name quiz, but let's call it an assessment and let's create it. Let's create a group of questions, tie the answers to each song, and see which song is most likely to resonate with the assessment taker. So we did that. We put it on the website, and it's under the music records section of 110 Dealers. But labels, sometimes helpful to guide us or identify us, but oftentimes it can be misused. And I think over time, labels need to evolve. And the other definition of freedom, and I've touched in this before in both songs and also other content that I've put out by video or if I by blog or by writing. And it is the freedom to do what we want in the world, be who we want in the world, and not under the control of someone else. I talked about this in the form of the golden handcuffs from a couple of episodes back. That situation where you have a job and you can pay your bills, but you feel like you're just sort of comfortably miserable sitting in all of that. It's like just enough to keep you there under control, but you don't feel like you are doing what you want to do or creating what you want to create. And I think that is very real in our world, no matter what country we live in, what income level we have. I think the ability to create what you want to create and be under the control of your own vision is extremely freeing. And that's why I've always supported being in a situation where you are still working for someone else, you are still obeying by their rules to an extent, but you're also working towards what you want to step into. So that period can be transitional and both a win-win for you and also a win-win for your employer, because employers are always going to need employees and employees are always going to need employers if they're looking for that transitional phase. The other thing, I was talking about this with my brother the other day, and we were talking about houses and purchasing houses. And I have done that. I've purchased 2 houses. I've sold both of them. But ultimately, I decided that it was not for me at this period of my life anymore, as I am working on expressing my creativity, making it discoverable, and connecting with a lot of other people. I need to be a little bit more mobile and even more mobile than a lease that locks you in, because I think home ownership is something that is beautiful if it does not tie you down to locations and mortgage payments that are higher than what you can afford. And again, this is my personal opinion, because I believe it doesn't make it true for someone else, but I've come to feel very strongly about this. If you think about it in one way of home ownership, it's almost like we are trained to obey these rules, obtain these jobs where we can follow more rules, even if we're not operating in freedom. And then we're just kind of stuck with this high percentage of our income that goes towards these mortgages. And it's all for what? To pay it off in 30 years and retire, and then suddenly we're secure. I can tell you, me and my sister both did that. We both got the mortgages and the house and all that. We had some help from our folks with down payment when we graduated, and we thought we were like, on such a good path, right? But my sister passed away last year at age 34, and she had all this equity in her house, all this cash that she had saved up. But I believe that it would have been more beautiful if she was able to utilize that money, that equity, what she had slaved away for, as opposed to leaving it behind. She didn't get to take it with her. I wish she did get to take it with her and get a better spot in heaven, right? But she did not get to take that with her. And so it really kind of, I know this is uncomfortable to talk about, because this has been ingrained in so many of our minds as, this is stability. A house that's paid off, and, the 401k and all the investments, and now we're comfortable when we're 65 in retirement. And it's just, I don't subscribe to that level of thinking anymore, based on what I've seen in companies and how you don't stay in companies for that long anymore. Based on what I've seen in other people's lives, I believe that resources are meant to be used while we're living for good, not to be accumulated excessively. And that's just a belief that I've come to in my own life. And it might not be popular, but it's always helpful, I think, to have another perspective on things. And I try to take things from both sides of arguments so that I can formulate my own. And so I think a new voice, a new perspective is always something that you can take under advisement. You don't have to adopt that mentality, but you can take it under advisement. On the song front, I talked about promo for songs. Well, this is less of a promo for songs and just more about the inside of my process and what I'm doing with the songs. So in the past week, I have written and recorded 2 more songs from the Dark Side of Songwriting project. And I feel good because I did the release of 6 last week that I had kind of stored up. And then that meant that this week I had the chance to actually go in, write, record, release right away. And so I think it's beautiful that you can do these sometimes in a studio, but sometimes from the comfort of your own home and get them out pretty quickly. I think that is such a nice freedom that you can do that, distribute to the stores, and get everything in motion through your own power and your own tools and your own creativity. And the ones that I did this week were called Singing Makes Me Feel Better and Bait and Switch. On Singing Makes Me Feel Better, I was thinking about this. I was like, well, what about Singing Makes Me Feel Good? But then I was like, what if I already feel good? Then singing just makes me feel even more good. So it's better. So I like that song. It's got a uplifting message, I think. And the verses are, I think, a little bit outside of what I typically write in the song. So it definitely feels unique to me and authentic to me because I think singing makes everyone feel better. It doesn't matter if you're in tune or out of tune. I think if you start to sing a song that is about love, or even if it's about heartbreak, and you're able to process that emotion with the melody, with the singing, it's a way to get that emotion out. And singing's been around forever and it's never going to go away. And I think it's beautiful that anyone can do it and put it out, especially in today's world of easier distribution. Still challenges, of course, but anybody can do it, write it, record it, put it out, and just the act itself of singing, whether it's into a recording or along to your favorite song, can instantly be like that dopamine or that hit of something that lifts your spirits. The second song that I wrote, now I think this one is catchier. I think it's a little more sinister. And initially I loved it. I thought about it for a few hours and I started to doubt myself because I was like, well, what if the wrong person receives this the wrong way? But then I decided, nope, I am going to put this out because it is truth. And what I put into my content, whether it be songs or 110 Talk Forum or something else altogether through writing or being interviewed by somebody else, is truth that I like to put out into the world. So Bait and Switch is really about this style of songwriting because remember, we're not just exploring the dark times, we're exploring the dark side of songwriting itself and how it can be misused. So Bait and Switch is about really misusing songwriting to try to bait somebody in and then switch up on them. And I think it's something that's evil. And I do hate what is evil. So with this song, I highlighted some of the tactics for how that's done because I think instead of sweeping something under the rug, it's better to put it out into the light. And I think that there's a lot of that can happen, but you have to understand both sides of it. And when you explore it, you can put yourself into the positions of both the baiter and the bait, switching it up, and why the position on that person or that situation evolves over time. And I tried to also kind of make it like bait and fisherman as well, because I'm actually out in towards the river and I've been out on the water a lot lately. If you catch the video version of this 110 Talk Forum, there's going to be some footage from the water, from being out on the boat. And a lot of people around here are fishing. And so there's kind of that double entendre, bait and switch as songwriters, bait and switch as fishermen. And at the end of the day, it's supposed to be something that makes us think and maybe evolve how we distribute and receive songwriting. And I think that it has a pretty beautiful beat and a pretty catchy melody to it as well. So we got to deal with things. We don't just ignore them. We deal with them, we address them, and then we think about how we want to move forward from there. News article. I don't have an actual article with the headline. I could find one. But the news article topic of conversation that I wanted to cover this week is the big, beautiful bill by Trump and his allies. I don't know if that's officially what it's called or if that's just what it's branded for the media. I think that we all would probably have to find it and read hundreds of pages in order to get the exact detail. And so I am reserving my final opinion on this bill until I have a chance to dig more into the exact specifics. But I do want to applaud Donald Trump for actually using the legislative process to get something done, because this has been a president that is very, very heavy on the executive actions, flexing his executive muscle powers. But I have said for a long time that I think that our government, the United States government, needs to function with all three branches. And as long as each of those branches are doing their function, we are going to be okay, and we are going to evolve, and we're going to have a new president once this presidency is over, and it's going to be fine. So first of all, I want to applaud him for actually using the legislative process to get something done. In a general sense, with this bill, as I understand it, and yes, I have to do more understanding and more research to get there, but in this general sense, I do support tax cuts. I think that's something that is important to people and puts money back into the citizens' pockets. So I think that is a good thing. However, my issue with the bill so far is that those tax cuts, along with cuts to the government spending on programs for people that need it, that does not sit right with me, especially as it's projected to add to the federal deficit. It seems like it could be irresponsible, but I will look for guidance from others, economists, and people who have researched and read this bill deeper than I have. I will also try to get exact language from the bill so I can form a more educated decision. But that's my takeaway so far is let's not take away services and add to the deficit. That seems irresponsible to me. So I'll be looking for other ways that possibly we could be adding revenue to the system. But that's where I stand on that. And just in general, I would say that our system of democracy in America, because it is a two-party system, we have this tendency to paint the other side as evil. So if I'm a Democrat, then I automatically look at the Republicans with eyes of evil. That person must be evil. Or if I'm a Republican, it's the same way. I look at the Democrats as evil for whatever reason. And that's because we're so polarized by this two-party system. I've said this, so many have said this, that we actually have a lot more that we agree on than don't agree on. And we could look at that with any issue, right? With guns, I think we can agree we need to heal the people, not make better guns or better laws. With abortion, I think we can agree that we all want to promote life, whether we call ourselves pro-life or pro-choice. And even people who are completely against abortion that I've talked with are saying that, yeah, it's usually reserved for those very extreme cases where the pregnancy is this far along or whatever. I'm very anti taking away choice. I believe everybody has to have a choice, and we can still be pro-life, whatever choice we make. But I think that issue has been polarized, and I think that most people, when they get into a room and look at the humanity of it, can actually understand the issue. And it sucks that we even still have to talk about this, that the Supreme Court decision was overturned and now this is a topic of conversation. I am definitely pro-choice, but I believe that pro-choice is actually pro-life, because you have to think about the life of everyone involved in the decisions. And I believe that pro-life is also about having a community and a civilization that makes people want to procreate, right? That believes that our children and our grandchildren will be able to step into something a little bit better, a little more just, a little more fair than it was when we stepped onto this planet. So my point is that if we can get past painting the other side as evil, and we can do that in a lot of different ways by third-party candidates that are viable. We can get Democrats and Republicans together now to build a basic framework that they can agree on as a platform. And then the conversation could be more about who is best positioned through their experience, the fire that they carry, vision, to carry this platform forward, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican. And I know everybody be like, oh, that could never be possible, blah, 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 blah. The Democrats, the Republicans, blah, 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 blah. But I think if we could develop a platform, because most of us agree on a lot of things, then we wouldn't have to be so extreme in the ways that we paint candidates in the media, in the social media, in the conversations. I really think it would be about who is the best candidate to carry a vision that we mostly agree on forward. Because I will be open to a Democrat or a Republican in 2028 when we're talking about the presidential candidates. I'll be open to who is most efficient, who is proven in character, and who do I think can carry the country forward with their leadership, regardless of what the party is. So I think that is a conversation we should all have. We don't have to agree on it, but it's a conversation that we should have. And I think when you think about policy, I think that those big bills, big pieces of legislation, I think it should be guided by the president. Again, I'm going to reserve my final judgment of this bill, which on first interpretation I'm not the happiest with. But I think that the idea of a president working with people behind the scenes to craft the bill's basic structures is a good idea. To have people in the room helping to draft a basic bill and then getting it out to both houses of Congress where they can tweak the details. But in the basics of the bill that have been established, the president, the advisors, the economists who will consider both outcomes of the legislation will be able to weigh in and create something that is believed not only by the president but by experts as well, will move the economy forward, will create more jobs, will move people towards that vision of freedom. I think that is a beautiful thing. These topics on this July 4th weekend have been top of mind. I've been feeling patriotic. I went on a boat for 4th of July fireworks, and I swear almost every boat that we passed had an American flag. And my brother was wearing an American shirt. I had an American hat. I just felt like we were in the land of the very patriotic this weekend. And I just know, despite how much we seem to disagree and how divided we may seem, I think that the citizens of this country really take pride. We take pride in the progress that we have made in the last 249 years. And we want to see this country remain a leader, get back into alignment where we need to get back into alignment, and think about the big vision forward. I want to wish everybody a beautiful 4th of July weekend. It might be wrapping before this comes out, but after that, into the second half of this year, in the spirit of America, whether you are American or not, in the spirit of America, let's all think about what freedom means to us, and let's refine that definition for ourselves, because that is the culture of life that we want to bring children and grandchildren into the world with. And when we do our part to put aside the petty and to actually get shit done, that is how we are able to make that freedom more of a reality than it was when we came into this world. So with that being said, love and light to you, to yours, family, friends, neighbors, and let's look ahead with optimism. All my best, and take care.